Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Principle 2.0 3 Keys to Maximizing Impact by Michael Fullan. Narrated by Lyle Blaker. Publisher's Note: in this audio edition, you will hear references to figures and tables present in the print and ebook formats of the book. Limit of liability, disclaimer of warranty. While the publisher and author have used their best efforts in preparing this book, they make no representations or warranties with respect to the accuracy or completeness of the contents of this book, and specifically disclaim any implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. No warranty may be created or extended by sales representatives or written sales materials. The advice and strategies contained herein may not be suitable for your situation. You should consult with a professional where appropriate. Neither the publisher nor author shall be liable for any loss of profit or any other commercial damages, including but not limited to special, incidental, consequential, or other damages. Further, readers should be aware that websites listed in this work may have changed or disappeared between when this work was written and when it is read. Neither the publisher nor authors shall be liable for any loss of profit or any other commercial damages, including but not limited to special, incidental, consequential, or other damages. Preface. Principle 2.0 is a brand new book, with 90% of it original. So much has happened in the principleship in the past 5 years. We are on the front lines of action, and we have captured its dynamic tension and potential breakthroughs with powerful examples of what the new principleship looks and feels like. I think this will turn out to be a new and crucial era for the heads of schools. They will be expected to build a new internal school and community system, one that includes students and parents, health and well-being experts, one that develops a local and regional entity addressing poverty, equity, and new learning, one that develops students to be change makers. Never have the stakes been higher. I am also aware that the combination of an already broken system, the pandemic in all its forms, climate collapse, and the plummeting of social trust has made it increasingly difficult and in some cases impossible for healthcare workers and educators to survive. It is this scenario that has led many of us to tackle the matter of system transformation using what we call the humanity paradigm. This is not an abstract proposition. It is heavily grounded in local development, middle-level mobilization, regional development, and eventually pushing upward to system change. This book, Our Principles in Action, contains many of the elements that will be essential for system change. The immediate period, the rest of this decade, 2023 to 2030, will be crucial to progress and perhaps even to our very survival. The ideas of this book should be seen as concrete examples of feeding forward into what could only be called the battle of the decade, whether education, well-being, and learning could become a central force for societal survival and flourishing. Our team of about 10, sometimes more, works on 2 overlapping endeavors. One is systemness, the idea that systems need greater coherence and cohesion. We recognize that the system is dynamically diverse, which to a certain extent can be a good thing, but currently too chaotic, risking the future of humanity both physically, climate catastrophe, and socially, deadly conflict and gross inequality. Thus, we work with whole districts, regions, states, and countries to improve education systems that will benefit all. Eventually, we want the bottom, local communities, and the middle, districts, to be driving forces for system transformation as much as or more than the state. This is direct work. Try to make the change happen as you study and work with the system. It was Kurt Lewin who said, "If you want to understand something, try changing it." A second and compatible part of our system work is called New Pedagogies for Deep Learning, deep.learning.global/. We focus on certain global competencies, the 6 C's: character, citizenship, collaboration, communication, creativity, critical thinking. New learning design and pedagogies that transform the roles of students as learners and all those who work with them. New conditions at the school, community, district, and state levels. We partner with clusters of schools, whole districts, states, and other entities in almost 20 countries. Above all, we help develop and establish new purposes for education. Well-being and learning with respect to individual, community, and societal development. Individual academic development occurs within this framework but does not dominate it, as it has for the past 2 decades. Belongingness is a key factor. In all this work, the principal, of course, is pivotal, caught in the middle. Are they an agent of the state or the local community? It doesn't help much to say both, but the principalship does give us a powerful entry point to enter, understand, and try to change the system. This book captures the new role of principals required for the demands of an increasingly complex universe, and for the opportunities it presents to fulfill humanity and its responsibilities in the rest of this century. We often acknowledge that some 80% of our best ideas come from the interaction with leading practitioners, including, by the way, young people who in many ways make the best change agents. Again, Kurt Lewin. There is nothing so theoretical as good practice. I feature such practitioners in 8 vignettes spread over the chapters. In Chapter 3, we examine a turnaround example from England, a pivoting success using technology in rural New Brunswick, Canada, and a dynamic transformation of a primary school in the South Island of New Zealand. In Chapter 4, we check out a quick turnaround of a listless school in California, a major change in culture in a diverse multicultural high school in Ottawa, Canada, along with how the district context enabled it, and a new dramatic development of a primary school in Melbourne, Australia, that was founded almost 150 years ago. In Chapter 5, we visit Adlert, the successful school from England, in relation to how it fared during the depths of COVID-19, and focus on a brand new secondary school in Toronto, Canada, that hit the ground running. In all these cases, it is the principal who enables the local school to come alive, a leader who is equally plugged into the local community and the wider societal policy and social context. Together, they produce graduates and citizens who are aware of what the world is facing. They are the beginning, I think, of a potential new era for education marked by well-being and learning, where individual, community, and societal development are pursued simultaneously and synergistically. The last line of the first edition of The Principal is, "There is no time to waste." Well, the all-encompassing COVID-19 pandemic had something to say about that. Where are principals now? In a 2022 survey by the RAND Corporation titled, "Are Principals on the Brink of a Breakdown?" some 85% of principals reported experiencing job-related stress, 48% said they were struggling with burnout, and 28% reported symptoms of distress. Society itself is reeling physically with disastrous climate change and with plummeting social distance between and across many levels. The truth is that schools and society have been in a long-term decline for the past 50 or more years. We live atop a time bomb. The relentless inequality, boredom, and alienation that students experience in school grows as they progress up the grade levels. By grade 10 or 11, barely 2/3 of students were engaged at school. In this respect, the pandemic has pulled the rug out from under any stability that might have remained. My conclusion in this second edition is that the current radical disruption could turn out to be a good or a bad thing. We know it will not be a no thing. A lot will depend on the evolving principalship, which I have attempted to capture in this new book. We are going to enter the system through the portal of the principalship with a view to understanding and increasing the leverage of principals to help change the system for the better. In my mantra of learning most from those doing the job, we are going to get inside the thinking and action of school principals. I am a great fan of nuance, seeing beneath complexity, how things tick, and how to enable them to tick better. In the course of the following chapters, you will witness what effective principals do. You will find that principals are expected to help develop and lead a local system of internal cohesion at the school and community level, to be leaders among district and regional entities, and to be able to take into account what is going on in the wider society. Indeed, we will find that the new principalship is anchored in local communities while recognizing that in many ways they must simultaneously take into account national and worldwide matters. What would it take to leverage such leaders for further progress? In Chapter 1, The 3 Keys, Picking Up the Pieces, we will start where COVID-19 has taken us, and know that the pandemic has not yet departed, and why it represents a major opportunity to redefine our future. The 3 new keys are described in Chapter 1. In Chapter 2, A Long Time Coming, I trace some of the evolution of the role of the principle that take us to the 3 new keys. Chapters 3, 4, and 5 are based in turn on the keys in action. The final chapter, 6, is about where we go from here. We know one thing: it won't be static. Listen to this book like you are a participant in a live-action movie. We are at an inflection point where current forces for societal change will result in a change of direction that the world will take. The trouble is that the direction is precarious and unpredictable. This book is intended to shape the odds toward the betterment of humanity through new learning. Mobilize others and learn together, and don't be afraid to push upward for needed changes. Chapter 1. The 3 Keys, Picking Up the Pieces. If we can use the metaphor of picking up the pieces, we will find that a lot of the pieces were not worth saving. This chapter starts with a brief account of the 3 new keys for maximizing positive impact on learning and well-being. I then double back and consider what the pandemic debris signifies, for worse and for better. From there, I proceed to whether we have grounds for optimism and provide advice for those principals who want to stay and lead, and indeed those who might want to move into the principalship to play such a breakthrough role. Chapters 2, 3, and 4 will focus on each of the 3 keys, using specific examples from school principals in action with whom we work. 3 new keys for maximizing impact. The original 3 keys, leading learning, being a district and system player, and becoming a change agent, based on current practice about a decade ago, were helpful and were grounded in our knowledge of working with schools and school systems. Things have changed dramatically since 2014. It is a different world now. More ragged, more inventive, more volatile for better or worse. New ideas are crystallizing. Some of them are deadly worrying, others exciting. Our team has been close to these ideas, and as usual, we are learning from being at the scene of action. We are trying to identify and help those who want to make the best of the situation. Indeed, learning with those who are working on breakthrough solutions. We present here at the outset the emerging, tentative conclusions about this empirical and, we would say, theoretical work. I portray this work in this section and spend the rest of the book tracking it down and capturing it. The basic framework is portrayed in Figure 1.1, which can be found in the print and ebook versions of this book. Lead learners is a democratic concept. It encompasses all leaders, from the 6-year-old climate activist to the 100-year-old pot stirrer. Lead learners means 2 things: being a role model for all others who come within your sphere, and helping others to learn, especially in interaction with groups focusing on a cause. Put sharply, your job as a leader is to work with others to bring about desirable change, while enabling the leadership skills of others who can carry on perhaps better than you after you depart. The 3 new keys will come alive in the chapters where the examples are presented. They include new exciting breakthroughs around the concept of spirit work, the powerful contextual literacy that Nuance uncovered as we followed Leonardo da Vinci's lead to get into the weeds of local culture, and the elusive systemness for 30 years, and more following Peter Senge's 5th discipline. We will also uncover the new dynamic concept, connected autonomy. As we shall learn, connected autonomy captures the dynamic equilibrium of being simultaneously autonomous from and connected to others. But first, we have to address the pieces caused by the world and society going off kilter in the last 100 years, but particularly the last decade. We will find peril and promise among the innovations, societal developments, remnants, and other spin-offs of the wild period in which we live. What better place to start than the pandemic that has blindsided us in the past 4 years? Has it really been only that long? Pandemic debris. The single best summary I have seen about the pandemic fallout for education comes from my colleague Valerie Hannon and her co-author of the recent book, Future Schools. They call their list the pandemic shock. They identified 10 shocks, one of which pertained to higher education, which we omitted. Their list is contained in Table 1.1. Table 1.1. The Pandemic Shock. 1. How enormously important the social function of schools was. On every survey about what, if anything, students missed about school, the item that came top was friends and people. 2. That notwithstanding decades of expectation that digital technology would transform learning, when it came to it, almost all schools were woefully unprepared. Technology had not been brought into the DNA of schools, and the removal of face-to-face connection revealed how primitive the majority of use was. 3. That although some schools knew and understood their communities, it was revealed how many did not. The home circumstances and real-life conditions of their families came as a revelation to many schools. 4. How the flexibility of release from attendance at school had been enjoyed by students, especially those for whom the rigidities of factory-style school routines did not fit. 5. It was revealed how the functioning of economies depended on the safe custody of children to free up parents to work. While homeschooling was revealed as a viable and attractive option for some, a tiny minority, most parents needed others elsewhere to look after their children, even as working from home became normalized. 6. It was revealed how the standardized assessment industry consumes time, energy, and money, and for what. 7. Leadership is a key determinant. Whether of countries, cities, or the local primary school, leadership can make the difference between optimism and hope, vitality or despair, and in the case of the health security of nations, literally between life and death. 8. The equity gap, which was already grotesque, is now unconscionable and unsustainable. Social safety nets were seen to be eroded or non-existent. Poverty and race were revealed to be pre-existing conditions for vulnerability to viral infection and many other ills. Contrasts could not be ignored in the life circumstances of children, some of whom enjoyed rich, varied, and enjoyable learning experiences during lockdown, while others had a full stop to their learning. Some endured increased levels of domestic violence toward both women and children. 9. The occasion of COVID-19 gave many people cause to reflect upon their values. What really mattered? Care became priceless. Oil became worthless. Nature blossomed and gave solace. Relationships were understood to be at the very essence of a good life. Shock 1. The social value of schools was what students and teachers missed the most. Very few apparently missed learning. Restoring learning to its proper place linked to well-being is one reason good principals would want to stay or new ones to join. Shock 2. In the future, digital technology will play a larger role, but in the absence of good teaching and good leadership, it will be disastrous for the future of society. This is a double-edged sword. Now we have the opportunity to use new technology to team up with students and teachers in the driver's seat. Shock 3. Understanding communities again represents a double message. Many communities have desperately poor resources to bring to learning, yet launching a new community school strategy, as California is doing, our team is part of this, represents a huge new opportunity for school leaders. Shock 4. Many students enjoyed the escape from the rigidities of factory-style routines. All we need now is the flip side. Enjoy the excitement of deep learning. This is another creative outlet for the new principalship. Shock 5. Safe custody of children is key, and, in my mind, another aspect of the new community schools arrangement. Shock 6. The negative yield of the standardized assessment industry is a finding that serves up the power of new assessments focusing on global competencies, which our group and others are now developing. Shock 7. Leadership is a key determinant that can make the difference between optimism and hope, vitality or despair. New principle, where art thou? Shock 8. The equity gap is grotesque, unconscionable, and unsustainable. Do new principals want to be part of reducing equity not as a silo proposition as is the current case, but as part of an emerging movement to transform society. Shock 9. Relationships were understood to be at the very essence of a good life. More clarion calls for the good leader. All this is found in the ashes of the pandemic. Our NPDL team wrote a similar account in a short piece called Defying Pandemic Gravity, which contains 7 powerful elements. Advice to dignify, gratify, simplify, clarify, identify, diversify, and amplify. deep-learning.global/. In February 2022, I wrote an op-ed published in EdWeek titled 6 Reasons to be Optimistic About Learning in 2022. 1. Escaping a bad system. 2. Recognizing and working with our best allies, students, teachers, parents, principals. 3. Well-being and learning are joining forces. 4. New, more powerful forms of learning on the rise. 5. Diverse leadership will grow and present new benefits. 6. Systems will begin to change. This represents a positive agenda, to be sure. Many of the problems were evident before the pandemic, which piled on more grievances. It also unearthed rotten foundations that were previously hidden. And it exposed what many had suspected, that we have the wrong system, a matter that Joanna Risotto and I took up in another op-ed titled Who's Abandoning Whom? Could it be that the system is on the brink of a breakdown, with principals, teachers, and students being collateral damage? We should have seen earlier signs. Time and again, when people are asked what they value most at work or in life, it is one's peers, good leaders, friends. When they are asked what is most important in life, it is a sense of belonging, purpose, doing something worthwhile, and making a contribution. The pandemic magnified these shortcomings in the present system and provides an opportunity to take them up as the new agenda as part and parcel of well-being and learning for all. If we pick up the pieces, examine them, identify good pieces from the past, toss away the bad ones, and then contemplate what is needed for the future, we come very close to imagining a better future that would be wanted by the vast majority of society. It is what most students, teachers, parents, and principals would want as well. Principle 2.0 may be the job description many people find appealing. This positive portrayal is indeed the 3 new keys for maximizing impact. This is the substance of the rest of the book. A hint about where we are going. The new role for the principal is developer of the internal system. The internal system is the students, parents, teachers, community vis-a-vis the external system, the hierarchy of policies and requirements coming from the system, the state, and regional authorities. Chapter 2. A Long Time Coming. A serious discussion about the deep leadership role of principals has been a long time coming. We have spent at least 30 years bouncing from one extreme to another on the false dichotomy of principal as instructional leader versus principal as autonomous school leader. We now know, a classic change finding actually, that neither works. The former is too narrow and the latter too vague. Both solutions are too blatant. That is, they lack nuance. A hint here about where we are going. If you want solid beneficial change, you need leadership that enables focused interaction over time to develop shared solutions that exemplify specificity without imposition. Keep that as a tantalizing thought while we briefly revisit the 2014 edition of The Principle. After that, I will summarize in current terms what is still missing in the principalship. The early pages of the first edition explored the concept of too broad, too narrow. The following section contains excerpts that are slightly edited and adapted from the original. We have had many false starts since the turn of the century, when No Child Left Behind legislation in the United States signaled a period of tightening the line of leadership to improve results in student learning. This chapter discusses why this approach failed, which sets the stage for the new, more powerful forms of leadership exemplified in the 8 vignettes across subsequent chapters. Too broad, too narrow. Stubborn problems set us oscillating back and forth like an unconfident boxer who weaves from side to side, believing they lack the punch to win the bout. Over the years, educators and their mentors have cycled through a too broad period of supposing that what has come to be known, vaguely at the time, as transformative leadership must be the key, then back to a too narrow period in which principals are expected to be right in there, giving specific feedback to as many individual teachers as they can. If you have been in education long enough, you can get hit by the same pendulum more than once. If you've been a principal for a while, you will have experienced times when transformative leadership has been highlighted. Leaders are to become generally attuned to the moral imperative of raising the bar and closing the gap as they inspire teachers and others to new levels of energy and commitment. The shared mission was meant to become a rallying point for teachers somehow to accomplish things never before achieved. It was all very broad indeed. The trouble was it was vague and unclear about where to start and what to do. Specificity and clarity were missing commodities. In reality, the evidence shows that the transformative leadership concept and movement simply didn't work because they lacked detail and strategies for getting at the specifics of good change. Vivian Robinson of the University of Auckland is a leading international education researcher specializing in leadership and school improvement. Conducting an in-depth meta-analysis of 22 studies, she and her colleagues found that the impact of transformative leadership was a puny 0.11 in effect size on student achievement. An effect size is a statistical measure of the degree of relationship between two variables. An effect size below 0.40 is considered to be weak or insignificant. Basically, the authors found that creating a general inspiring vision, attempting to instill motivation in teachers to join the cause, was not specific enough to produce actual results. One can readily surmise that creating broad, even inspiring messages do not help much absent the actual mechanics of getting to where you want to go. Robinson saw more promise at the narrower end. She found that what she called instructional leadership had a significant, but still not impressive, effect size of 0.42. This finding, and those of others, have indeed raised the expectation that principals should become instructional leaders. My own conclusions is that principals can engage in too much instructional leadership, or, even more disturbing, to suggest that principals can have too much moral imperative, defined as a deep and relentless commitment to raising the bar and closing the gap in learning for all students, without developing the specifics about how to do this. In any case, the shift to instructional leadership has led the principalship down an unproductively narrow path of being expected to micromanage or otherwise directly affect instruction. The narrow view raises two problems. First, in complex matters, you can't really micromanage to good effect. Second, it can be incredibly time-consuming for principals, diverting them from doing other things that can shape learning more powerfully. Supervising individual teachers into better performance is simply impossible if you have a staff of, say, more than 20 teachers. Principals who find themselves in districts that require that they spend, say, 2 days per week observing in classrooms will be less effective overall because they can't influence very many teachers in any given time period. They can't be experts in all areas of instruction, and they will end up neglecting other aspects of their role that would make a bigger difference, such as developing the professional capital of teachers as a group, along with other key aspects of leadership essential for motivating people to work together with the leader and others. A similar point had been made in an article by Richard Dufour and Robert Marzano. Dufour advanced through a long, distinguished career as teacher, principal, and superintendent to become an education writer and consultant who has left us a great legacy of insights. Marzano is another leading researcher and consultant whose practical translations of current research and theory into classroom strategies are internationally known and widely practiced. As they put it, time devoted to building the capacity of teachers to work in teams is far better spent than time devoted to observing individual teachers. But somehow these observations have been overshadowed by the accountability juggernaut. I asked Lyle Kurtman, who has spent the last decade identifying the competencies of effective education leaders, more about his findings toward the end of this chapter, if he had encountered the problem of too narrow a focus on instructional leadership. Within a nanosecond, he fired off 2 examples. One principal in a wealthy community received a vote of no confidence from her faculty. Her focus was on instructional leadership and the use of data to improve results for all her students. Her superintendent interviewed 10 faculty members and found that her
Sample complete. Ready to continue?